Well, good morning, guys. Once again, it is I, the chairman, bringing you another review of physical media. And I didn't get a whole lot in this week, but what I did get finally was Shout Factory's collector's edition of the 1976 version of King Kong, directed by John Guillermin, produced by Dino De Laurentiis, starring Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. Jessica Lange in her debut performance as Dwan, in the role that was made famous by Fay Wray in the original King Kong. And so yeah, this is a 2-disc set. It actually contains the theatrical cut and the television cut on separate Blu-rays. And the television cut is 182 minutes long, interestingly enough. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this film several times on TV, and of course at that time I didn't know anything about it being a theatrical cut or a television cut, since I never saw it in the theater. So it'll be interesting to see both of the cuts and see what the differences are. I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of actually surprised that it's that long, the television cut. I didn't know that there was all that additional extra footage that was shot. Although I've been seeing some reviews on Twitter saying that yeah, it looks really good. They're both 2K scans, not 4K. But apparently, regardless of the fact that it's only 2K, of course, it's not only 2K. 2K's pretty darn good, but it still looks pretty good. So I'm gonna definitely look forward to checking it out with my son. And also this is the special edition with a poster in it, so that'll go hang up on the wall soon. And in terms of music, I got in this bad boy, the double LP of the legendary Norwegian black metal band, Norwegian black metal band, Dimmu Borgir. Their most recent album from 2018 called Eonian, which I believe was their first album in 7 years. And so relatively recently, Dimmu Borgir have been kind of updating and changing their sound, and they've become more symphonic or orchestral, oftentimes performing with a live orchestra in Norway at various live events. And so yeah, this album is definitely a reflection of that change. They did start off with a very brutal, blast beady kind of black metal sound that is more appeals to the purists. But I've never really been into it, even though I do listen to a lot of black metal bands. I've never been into that kind of sound. I've always liked kind of what they were evolving into, similar to like a amorphous sound, much more melodic, symphonic if you want to call it that, but just kind of sounding like more like music instead of just feeling like you're getting your head and your ears pummeled off. I'm not saying that music isn't appealing to some people, but I've always found that to be not as interesting to me, which is why I tend to veer towards more of like a power metal sound, just kind of a really over the top, bombastic, a lot of orchestration, very produced sound. Like I said, not for everyone, but also the other sounds, not for everyone either. So one of the cool things is that this does contain this full-size booklet, and it's the usual with pictures of the band, and they've kind of changed their look, but they're one of the few bands that have kind of maintained that corpse paint look, at least for their performance. Of course, they don't go around every day dressed like this, but a lot of their bands, they start off with the corpse paint, but then they've now just go for like the long black hair and the dark glasses look. But these guys have tried to maintain that look. Although this is different now because they're wearing the hooded cloaks, whereas before it wasn't like that. It was more of like the typical like black metal warrior look, like Immortal had, and Emperor and a few of the other bands, where it was just like like Kiss but on steroids. And so they've gotten a few other band members over the years, but over the last like 15, 18 years, it's been these three guys, Shagarth, Selenas, and Galder. And a couple of the new guys, I don't know these guys. These are the guys who like they change them up all the time, like the keyboardist and a drummer. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like Spinal Tap, where the drummer, where they have a different drummer for every album, it seems, or tour. And so here's a shot of them all together. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You don't see this kind of, just various pictures. You don't see this large booklet at all much in your double album. So this is not a gatefold. This is just a like a wider sleeve, which is nice. And then I did watch, get to finish watching Sangre, and I do have to say that I was definitely surprisingly and pleasantly impressed with this film. I really didn't know much about it, but it was definitely a very entertaining, a very interesting film. Probably more in the vein of horror than anything Jodorowsky has made before. I mean, Jodorowsky is a little bit very difficult, if not impossible, to categorize in any kind of genre. He's kind of his own genre. Like I mentioned before, I found El Topo to be almost unwatchable, being how bizarre it was. I know it's a cult classic, but of course that's the thing with cult classics, that some people love them and other people are like completely don't get it or even hate it. But if you feel turned off by any of Jodorowsky's earlier stuff, I'll definitely give Sangre a watch, because it has a pretty linear story. I mean, it does jump back and forth in time, but really the story is about this guy, Phoenix, who is raised in a circus life. He's a boy magician. His parents also perform in the circus. His father's like the ringleader. His mother's a trapeze artist, but she's also involved in this Santa Sangre. I guess you could even call it a cult, but they have a church. It's the Church of the Holy Blood, and so it's tied around the story of this young girl who was raped, and then her arms were cut off, and so that's the symbol that they have on their costumes, of the arms cut off. And the arms cut off thing does come into play later on in the film, and I won't really give away much. I mean, this is a film that you just kind of have to watch. It is in English, so it is different in terms of that. I don't know if Jodorowsky has had a lot of films in English. Obviously, his first ones weren't. His earlier ones, I should say, weren't. But this is in English, even though it's set in Mexico. And for the most part, I mean, yeah, it's weird. It's got a lot of crazy stuff in it, but it's definitely much less so than, I would say, like Fondo Elise and El Topo. So, in a way, in a kind of a weird way, I would say it's almost his most accessible film, and definitely one that, if you get the chance to watch, I would definitely watch it. I don't know if this is available in other forms. Obviously, I would recommend you to watch the 4K, but it's expensive. It's not available in large quantities, so. But yeah, if you're into a different experience in terms of watching films than what you've normally seen, definitely give Santa Sangre a watch. All right, so the other thing I did want to mention was that I finally did get the replacement disc for Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia from Kino Lorber, and so I'm watching that right now. And yeah, for the most part, it looks fine for a mid-70s film. There are some parts that are a little soft, you can tell, but that's probably just either due to the condition of the original negative element or other elements, or just that it was shot soft from an optical standpoint. So this is one of the Sam Peckinpah films I don't think I've watched before, but I've always been aware of it. So I'm about, I think, a third of the way through, and I'll let you know what it's like when I finish it. So until then, this has been the Chairman, and I'll talk to you later.